Well, Greece could be on the heels of electing a party that has Marxist beliefs, driving that country into further economic crisis. Joining us is Anthony Fury, Toronto Sun columnist, Sun News commentator, who, of course, wrote a column about this today. So what's the latest?
Well, it's not really getting a lot of headlines just because we're slow over the holiday season, but I think this is a huge story. Can have repercussions for really all of the Western world, not so much in terms of what it actually triggers economically, but whether or not people follow suit with this. So backtrack a little bit. Greece, not doing too well, living a bit large, not fully paying their bills, living on the credit card a bit. Economic crisis happens. They need a bailout. 250 billion euros. That's the biggest bailout ever, Rebecca, in financial history. And of course, when you get a bailout, there's some little conditions on there that the International Monetary Fund and some other bodies said, all right, Greece, you want all this money from us to backstop your largesse, you got to change your ways. What do we call telling people to change their ways? Austerity measures. But folks on the ground, they freaked out about this. They said, we don't want to change our ways. They rebel against austerity. And now this new radical left party, and I'm not making up those words, they're called Syriza, which is an acronym for, translated to English, Coalition of the Radical Left. They are self-proclaimed Marxists, and they are doing really well in the polls right now. And because the Greek parliament has been forced into an election position just for this coming January, a snap election, they could very well win the election, bring about these hardcore anti-austerity measures, and that could in turn harm the Greek economy again. And maybe in a couple of years from now, they need another whopping bailout, depending on how all this falls out. And this is really important because America went through this issue. Ontario is having these conversations about what to do with their liabilities. And I think this should be a big conversation everyone's having.
Okay, paint a picture, please, for us about what people in Greece are thinking. If this party is popular in the polls, for example, if on January 25th they're going to become victorious, become the new government, why do people want this government, which, as you mentioned in your column, would want free electricity, free food, free rent, and debt forgiveness, and reduce the work week to, I believe it's 2 days a week? Why do people in Greece think that this is acceptable given Greece's economic crisis?
Because they've been used to it, for one, in decades past. Not the similar measures, but they've had a relatively European way of life, shall we say. So they have been used to that. Also, times have been tough for them. The economy has not been doing well. Unemployment is at about 25%. So the quality of life is not as tickety-boo as it could be, and folks are upset about this. They're told, oh, the evil overlords of finance are responsible for this. Reject the bankers. They're forcing your low quality of life. And average folks are just paying attention to their own kith and kin, and they want to have their local family economy thriving. And they think, yeah, this is a way to do it. This is how we can do this. The politicians, though, and I mean Marxist politicians, they are academic neo-Marxists who know exactly what they're doing. And I really think they're leading the folks astray by telling people you can have your cake and you can eat it too. This idea that somehow austerity measures are forced onto other people is a total lie. The only time you would ever need austerity measures is because you have bankrupted yourself. This narrative, Rebecca, oh, they're victims of bankruptcy. No. Bankruptcy is something you do to yourself, usually through making poor mistakes. That is what Greece is facing right now. They had the choice between just going into a sort of managed bankruptcy and going into the program that they're going in right now with the International Monetary Fund and the European Central Bank to get themselves that hundreds of billions of dollars. They chose that path. They have to live with this. It's either short-term pain or it's long-term tougher pain is what they have to face. And they have to accept the fact that short-term pain is necessary.
Yeah, they obviously are defiant that being pigs at the trough is fine when it comes to the European Union. Do you get the sense that the European Union, Angela Merkel, for example, could step in and over the course of the next few weeks and say, look, Greece, we're going to turn off the taps if you pursue this route?
Yeah, I mean, they have agreements, they've signed contracts and so forth, but they can pretty much make it clear that if you want to walk away from this, you're going to be on your own. And the question is to what degree that triggers further fallout in other countries, a further lack of confidence in the euro and the eurozone and things that are going on in those economies. I mean, Greece is a relatively it's an important player, but I think the more important factor is the tone it sets. I think this promotes entitlement culture on high octane. It's a really severe version of entitlement culture where people think that they are not responsible for their own bankruptcies. I mean, the average people on the street necessarily aren't, but the actual legislators in that country and the people who set the fiscal policy, they're the ones who are responsible for it. And to blame Germany or the Goldman Sachs bankers is just ludicrous.
Could this lead to a broader trend across Europe, or is this alone for Greece in terms of the beliefs of the people and the trend that we're seeing?
Well, interesting question, because I think it could lead to a broader trend because there's a lot of anti-Eurozone sentiment right now in various different pockets throughout Europe. So you can get people who, even though they might be on the far right politically in terms of associating with other countries and wanting to be isolationist from being in any unions, they might end up siding with this far left neo-Marxist sentiment because it's another version of doing a middle finger to a unified Europe. But the entitlement culture ethos that I'm talking about, well, Rebecca, as we know, that really is bigger than Europe. That's something that comes to Ontario, it comes to various American states, and it's an issue that everyone's going to have to deal with because sooner or later you're going to run out of other people's money. It used to be just within the same country or city. Now when you get to a large structure like the Eurozone, you say, oh no, it's all a giant money tree covering all of Europe. But we see in Greece's case, you still can run out of that money.
Yeah, this no doubt is going to cause some socialist sadness across Europe for those countries who actually believe in austerity measures, specifically Germany, who of course has led the way when it comes to bailing out Greece and signing these agreements, as you mentioned, to ensure that Greece gets on the right track. But by the end of January, Greece could be very much on the wrong track with this new Marxist government if in fact they are elected. Thank you very much, Anthony, for joining us.
Thank you.